Opentalk. My name is Shannon Colquhoun. I am the VP of Global Industry Strategy for Retail E-commerce and Consumer Goods. I am really excited today to bring on the stage Patrícia. She'll introduce herself. I will not do it enough justice, but I want to say somebody I've been in retail since college, and there is no other person I'd want to run my customer care organization than her. And I had the good fortune of spending many years at Land's End, which to me is one of the gold standards in what customer service looks like. They've been a Talkdesk customer, Farfetch has, for the last few years, but she even actually worked with Talkdesk way back in the day, even before then. And so she's been a great partner for us. And I've had the pleasure of getting to know her over the last couple of months. And today we're going to talk about the role of, CX in the luxury space. We're going to talk about how Farfetch services their clients. We'll talk about changes within the workforce, new channels, etc. Probably be a bit of a wild ride. We'll see where we go. But with no further ado, Patrícia, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about Farfetch.
Hi, Shannon. Thank you so much for having me. I'm almost blushing with all the introductions. So let me share a little bit about myself and about my role at Farfetch and what we do at Farfetch. So starting by the end. So Farfetch is a global luxury platform, and it's really not a store, it's a marketplace, right? So we connect all of these wonderful brands and boutiques that have this huge portfolio of luxury goods, mainly fashion, and we connect those to customers all over the world. So I think we ship from 120 countries to 180. I think that's the latest numbers. So it's a huge, massive operation that we do simply for love of fashion, revolutionary technology. So trying to marry two seamlessly two concepts which are kind of, or seem to be in different points in the spectrum, geeks and technology and high fashion people. But, at Farfetch, most people have at least a little bit of each, right? So I think it's a very exciting company. So my role at Farfetch, I'm Global Director of Customer Service. We do customer service through a set of different channels. It depends on the market. It goes from WeChat, live chat, WhatsApp, email, and phone. We do it out of 8 places in 7 countries in 11 languages. So it's a bit of a mess, follow the sun, but it's always fun. It's interesting. I think it is a joy to belong to such a company. It's a very, very customer-centric, very fun, very conscious about people. And so most of us, I think, would say that we're very happy to work for Farfetch and very lucky and very grateful. And also very grateful for our lovely customers. We'll share a few stories of how wonderful they are. And, in customer service for us is all about, giving the level of care that customers would expect and going above and beyond that. But also, I think that's a very, very important, CX hub mission. Another one that Shannon and I are very keen to talk about is amplifying customers' voices, right? How do we make sure that these hundreds of people that listen to customers every day actually choose the tidbits that are important and amplify them to the rest of the company so that it creates movement, that it generates positive change, that influences the customer experience on the platform, on services, on new products, etc. So that's really important.
Well, Patrícia, first thing, I'm going to interrupt you because she's, by the way, so many different stories that I've already started sharing them out otherwise. But we've talked about that. It's just so in the DNA at Farfetch. Just because you're high end doesn't necessarily mean that's great service, meaning authentic and genuine, which really does feel the way that Farfetch operates. There were some examples you gave around how that amplification of the voice happens with the, what you call your advisors. For everybody out there, that's what other people might call a customer service rep or an agent, and how they provide feedback loops to, for example, your design organization.
Yes, so I think we do this in lots of different ways, right? Because we do feel that most people at Farfetch need to somehow be connected to what customers feel and need, and what they like and what they don't. And I honestly believe that customer service needs to take that challenge very personally, right? So here's a few things that we do. So I think, more common than as in other companies, we do a lot of workshops with designers and technology people and product people, just to understand specific problems like returns or exchanges. And so we'll do these workshops, and we will send people, supervisors and advisors, to these workshops, and product loves that. So I think that's pretty standard in the industry, but here's other things that we'll do. We'll collect a ton of cases and calls in that specific theme, and we'll share them with a product team and tell them, listen to these 5 calls, understand how painful it is for customers to return something in Germany or to return something in the US. And then come back to me and tell me if you don't think that this is worth solving. Look, Shannon, sometimes it's about putting the right priority on things, right? Things that we felt are important and that others haven't prioritized through their business cases and everything else. And I think listening to something we've told by a customer when they say, it's so confusing when I go on the platform and see A, B, or C, right? And it's not us saying, right? It's a customer saying. So we then know, oh, let's change that, right? So that's another thing that we do. We also, to get that experience far and wide, we also do a program that we call Have You Heard, which is a more polished version of all of this. That we'll select a specific call, we'll clean it, so take away all of the confidential information, we'll screen share, and we'll edit with a lot of data points. These sort of categories occur 77,000 times a year. It typically takes 10 minutes. Customers in these case categories typically have this customer satisfaction score. And then we'll do a funny thing at the end of the video where we show it to a senior leader on the area. So let's say it's order delay. We'll call the VP from logistics, and we'll have him see it. And then we'll ask him a few questions about what he saw. And it's taped live. So it's very, very, I think, primal, right? And then we pack all of this thing up, and it's a training that anybody can take at Farfetch, and people love it. And we call it Have You Heard? Because it's, have you heard about the customer that, have you heard about, that's how we call it. So it's kind of an internal gossip. Have you heard about the one? And we do, some funny calls. We do some really, I remember too specifically, one of them is just this customer, and she calls, and the first thing she says is, I'm done. And just how heavy it feels, and how it just, you just want to know exactly. And she's really lucky. It's a wrong item. She sends it back, and then there's problems with the refund. So she's really unlucky through the whole process. But just how heavy it was to hear her say, I'm done. But then there's another one, for example, about sizing and fitting. And it's this really, really interesting customer, and he's looking for a vest, and he doesn't know his size. And so the advisor is going to lengths to help him find the size. And he tells him, your chest size needs to be, for you to have an L, you need to tell me what your chest size is. It should be this and this. And he's like, but how do I measure myself? And so he puts the phone down on speaker, and he's trying to measure himself with the advisor on the phone. And it's hilarious because at some point the advisor's like, no, you need to do the whole circumference. And it's like a geometry class, and it's amazing. And, but again, I think it goes to show that size and fit is a huge thing when you're shopping online. It's so much easier when you're shopping at a store, right? So
Well, not surprisingly, Patricia, you've already now wanted me. I want to go down all these different paths as a result of that. What you just said there. So when you talk about the sizing, et cetera, and the technologies that Farfetch wants to bring in, how are you seeing, in the service space, things like virtual try-ons, et cetera, or things that you guys are looking to do to help accelerate or remove the friction between that experience? Because that's a perfect.
it's totally, we know that COVID has accelerated the whole move to online, but we also know that it's created a new normal, right? That some people will go back to the stores, but they won't require from the stores the same sort of experience, right? Because now they've had a taste for the good part of online, the bad part of online, the good part of the store, the bad part of the store. And so, us in Farfetch are very, very keen to be a leader in the space of creating, a very, very good, a perfect experience from online to offline and vice versa, right? And I think that goes to, I think to your point, empowering advisors, be it in the store or online, to be super helpful. And I think, if you went to the store and there was a set of information from you, that when you come to online, I have the same set of information. But the other way around is also interesting, right? That when you've been browsing for some stuff, right, online, and then you go into the store, how cool is it that me as a customer advisor on the store know, what has been on your favorite lists lately, right? And I can plot all of that up for you to try on. But if you don't want to try it on, then you have the whole mirror, which is a screen, and you can do the virtual try on. You can also do it at home on your app for watches or sneakers. So I think there's a lot about, just mixing and matching all of that experience into something that is completely seamless. You book your appointment, you say what you're gonna try, you go to the store, they complement that with a few other ideas. You go back, you think about it, you don't want to carry the bags, you just buy them, then shop online, right? So all of that I think needs to be pre-integrated. And I think, us of course are very interested in the move to physical, but we also see a lot of partners who own physical stores, right? Very interested in the move to digital and how they can digitize their stores. And I think it's a pretty exciting ride. But I think in terms of tools, I think it is very much about empowering advisors, be it on the stores or in the CX hub, to be relevant. For me, the word is always relevant. They need to be relevant for the customer, because customers do want to do everything by themselves, right? A lot of people want to do it by themselves. Mm-hmm. More and more we see, clients do value the opinion, but often they'll have that opinion with their, fellow friends and everything else. They value someone who's relevant to them, relevant in terms of the advice you give them, in terms of the way you solve a problem creatively, right? Because if everything went right, you wouldn't have a problem to solve. Once you do have the problem to solve, that advisors are pretty creative, right? I don't know. I remember we were talking the other day that there's so many bridal stories, right? I remember this bride in the Middle East, so beautiful. Like, she sent us pictures, like, you wouldn't believe it. And so she had this beautiful pair of shoes covered in Swarovski crystals. Look, Cinderella shoes, some amazing. And she got them like a week before her wedding, but like 2 or 3 crystals, I think, were missing. Something was wrong. We didn't have the time to deliver a new pair because it was, I think, in the States or something like that. So we found a partner that had the same pair but a different size in the Middle East. We picked those up. We sent them to that store. We actually bought that other pair. We took the crystals out and glued them to the right pair and sent them back. And I think this is about being creative about solutions, right? You need to find the right solution for that customer on that specific situation. And, a lot of people talk about, standard operating procedures and all of that, but nothing of that prepares you for these sort of moments. I think.
Well, we talked about it a lot too, because I'd love for you to dive deeper into this topic, is how you create the conditions to deliver great service, right? And just the notion of standard operating procedures doesn't conjure up any sort of positive, happy emotions, right? It's very.
No, does it?
I was like, I'm going to jump on
um,
that. Let's spend some space there because I think that is something you do very well. But as you and I've discussed this several times, but because of what's happened, the acceleration, COVID just accelerated things that were already happening right in place. But the contact center has been seen as something that's not really the same strategic importance, value that it is now. It is now central, and there are so many different ways somebody can interact. And that agent, I put it always in quotes, agent enablement, which would be your advisor enablement, is something that now is top of mind. And so talk about that, because I think I love some of the stories you shared with me about how you.
Shannon, I don't want to be like self-centered, but when people tell me that customer service isn't strategic, this is what I tell them. These are the only people in your company, if you're an e-commerce company, that talk to clients.
Yes. Yes.
The only people that talk to clients. If these people are important, I don't know who is.
Well, I
So,
mean, this is one of the reasons why I came to Talkdesk. To be very honest, I've only been here about 4 or 5 months, but it was for that reason. Because just seen as cost centers, really had not been placed in that. And I'll say the same thing for Tisha. That might be the only experience they have with your brand.
exactly.
And
These are
so,
your true brand ambassadors, right? You talk about influencers and all of that, and I think all play a part. But in the end, the only people that talk on their own voice, unscripted to customers, to clients, are people in the customer experience center. So I think they're very important.
and it's
But,
similar to
but to make
yeah,
them feel important, I think to your point, isn't easy
yeah.
sometimes. It is a stressful job, right? I think it's a stressful job.
So
And
how do you set your advisors up for success?
so it's a mix of things. First, I think, I'll tell you that strategically we don't do outsourcing. Every one of our advisors are Farfetchers, full-fledged Farfetchers with the whole pack of benefits and everything. And then we try, so there's a mix of, again, I think, Talkdesk is part of it, Salesforce is part of it. So in us giving them a tech enablement that allows them to do their job really well. And then there's a part which is making them, allowing for them and enabling the experience, the Farfetch experience. So everybody has this Farfetch credit that they can use and that they can shop at Farfetch. We're really keen for people to understand what it feels to be a customer at Farfetch, so that you can think about that when you're talking to a customer. I think that's pretty important. And then there's a part which I think is just health enablement, right? How we don't put people on the phone the whole day. We try to give them also cases, offline cases, so that people can take a breather. Mental health is really important. We do have a health line, stress line, if you like. And this is completely internal. So managers and other people just volunteer. And this is just for advisors to have a moment, sometimes between two calls, where they need to take a breather and vent. Because, I think we've talked about this before, you and I, Shannon, that for you to be very good at your job as an advisor, you need to connect emotionally to the person you're talking to, right? And sometimes that's pretty heavy on emotions, be that, good emotions or bad emotions, right? People are really stressed, and specifically during the last year, people are really stressed, they're really anxious, they're pretty lonely as well. And sometimes it's a lot, right? It's a lot. And advisors, to be as wonderful on the next call, they need a reset. And it's difficult to do a reset. And so sometimes we just tell them, you just call this line and there'll be someone there to talk to you, and we'll just, help them reset their intention, take away all of the emotion from the last customer to the next. And I think I shared that with you, that, I remember this call where we had this lovely customer, I think from Russia, and she was wondering, she was second guessing herself about a pair of shoes. These were like really sexy shoes. And she was, are these age appropriate, right? So that was the question. And the advisor, oh yeah, completely age appropriate. You can also dress it down. And then at some point, the question isn't, isn't any longer about the shoes being age appropriate. What this customer is really saying is that, she feels she's gotten to this certain age where she doesn't feel that finding true love and getting married and having children and the whole 9 yards is still possible, right? And so the advisor is now having a totally different conversation from fashion and sizing and all of that. And she's actually telling her, I'm the same age, and I totally still believe that I'm going to be super happy and find someone. So, but look, for this advisor to be so fully present and so human, it also brings questions to herself, right? Is this, should I feel insecure then as well? Hopefully not. And so I think it's very important for us to give them that space as well. I've told you before that space for us is really important. So now people, in some offices are home again.
And I've actually, one of the ones I've shared otherwise in the story with the shoes, it is absolutely true. And that leading with the empathy, right? And if you read any of the, just 101 customer service, if we were going to go to SOPs for customer service, listening with empathy is one of them. And that is very draining. So I do. I love that you're looking at it that way. And then as you mentioned, like a bot, et cetera, how we know that people want to have self-service. We've discussed this, right? How can I get to someplace faster to do certain things? But I also know I'm going to need help in, other capacities. So then how do you bring in, I think this is the question that Talkdesk is we're trying to solve for. I think you as the organization is, how do you then leverage technology, AI, et cetera, to integrate also that emotional experience? I've seen something we have that's really cool. It does sentiment analysis. So similar to that, I'm done, right? When you said that, there's a lot that you can get from there. And if somebody could see that journey, because at the end of the day, yeah, we're all just people. We just want our products, right? Or we just want something. And I want it to be done. These are where we believe some of the criteria or priorities for customers used to be a lot more about product, price, and not to say those things are now just table stakes. It's more about ease, quality, right? Connection. Do you know me? Are you listening to me? Are you trying to help serve me? And this is where you guys just absolutely kill it.
I think the interesting part about self-service is that companies have traditionally decided what goes to self-service based on volumes, right? You go to your case categories, sort by maximum to minimum. Sorry, it's my cold. And then the top drivers for cases go through to self-service. Here's how we think about it at Farfetch. We also do that. And then we apply what we call net emotional value. So we're trying to find, and that's, sentiment analysis and all of that, what customers really feel on that specific category. And if it's a high net emotional transaction or high net emotional value for that specific transaction or case category, we don't put it to self-service because we want to manage the emotion. The transaction, any chatbot AI can manage. It's the emotion that we need to manage. And so this is how we make those decisions, which I think is pretty different from the way I've seen other companies decide. It's not volume alone. It is a combination of volume with net emotional value. So that some things are pretty low in terms of net emotional value. Automate those because the customer doesn't really want to interact anyway, right? So they want it done and want it done fast. So just make it simple. I think you said it first, right? Make it easy, effortless, done, right? Other ones, even if it's easy, they manage to do it, but they still don't feel right. And that's something that you as a company shouldn't allow to happen, that somebody walks away with something done, but still upset.
What I have found interesting in my new role is learning what the ratio of engagement channels looks like ideally for a retailer, be it where they're targeting or where their customers are or where they're pushing folks. So what I mean by that is like, is it email? Is it live chat? Is it chat bots? Is it phone, etc.? Is it SMS? And so there are different things, and there's one, and you can imagine if you have like a portfolio of brands, you might have one one area that you want it to be much more self-service, much more chat, etc., versus more high-end on phone. Now, I believe when I chatted with you, you're seeing a real not a real shift, but that the mix of business across these different channels doesn't have phone at the helm of it, I guess I should say. And so,
Look, I think
curious about that.
luxury customers are changing, right? We see a lot of um, we see a lot of more really younger people in their 20s shopping for luxury, and more men. So hooray for gender parity. um, and I think that shift in demographics, it does have an impact on channels. And so you do still have, certain demographics that, and certain case categories where people will resort to phone. But mostly you see people very keen on live chat or live messaging, WhatsApp and WeChat and all of those platforms where there's instant or semi-instant messaging, which I think again goes look, the same as we see, like for example in one of our top markets, 80% of all orders being done through the app. So these are the customers that we have, right? They shop mainly on the app. They're fundamentally getting younger. They're of course fast-paced professionals. They don't really have the time to interact, and so if you're shopping on the app, then it makes sense that you go to WhatsApp, or a live chat would be convenient for you, right?
I'd asked Patricia to share one of her many amazing client stories that she has, and she saved this one. I don't even know it. So we're gonna close out with that. Before we do, I want to say it. Yeah, you've been one of my favorite peeps that I've gotten to meet in this new gig. I can't wait to continue to collaborate with you and with Farfetch and learn more. And I can't wait to come over and meet you someday as
Oh
well.
yes.
Hopefully soon. So with that, thank you. And yes, share this story. I can't wait.
Okay, so a few weeks ago, we had this amazing customer from Virginia call us. She was looking for a pair of beautiful Ferragamo loafers, black loafers. And here's the rub of it. So they were for her daughter, who is disabled. One of her foot is much larger than the other one. I think it's a 7.5 and a 4.5. And so she wanted to know if she could buy the two pairs and she would return, but one size each, so that, she could give them to her daughter. Of course, at Farfetch with our marketplace, it's quite impossible because perhaps even the two come from different partners. But the advisor couldn't really cope with saying no. And so he said, look, we'll find ways to solve for this. So he involved the partner. It's actually our store, Browns. He called me, and here's what we did. We just told her, buy the two pairs of shoes. We'll refund one, whichever the two are the same, and you can keep all of them. Because we just felt that it was a moment to be human, right? When we say empathy and human, this is what we mean. And then the advisor called me in tears. His supervisor called me in tears because they were like, because one of them told me, because I'm a father too, right? And I think it just goes to show that Farfetch as a company, this isn't something that we are allowed to do. This is something that I think we are expected and encouraged to do, to find the right way to solve for each individual customer and to be truly human in the process. And that's the story I wanted to share with you.
Oh, no, you were going to make me tear it up, but
oh my God, you will be the first.
We all want to be. We're all humans, and we forget. I think there's so many interactions that take that away. So in all situations, we want that. It's been a pleasure. I'll miss you because we've gotten to talk so much recently. So we'll have to get
we'll talk more, the two of us. Thank you so much for having Shannon. You were a real joy. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.